Everyone is going through something. Let's take for something like masturbation. I think I was like maybe 8 or 9. We used to go to church Monday to Sunday. Who thought that I was doing the church thing too much? I feel like if there are more people that talk about certain things, you would never feel alone.
So the good part about this today's podcast is the fact that I came with my journal because I'm actually here to learn. Like I'm here to learn, and I'm here to learn about something very sensitive, a topic that is not really talked about that much, especially when it has to do with self growth. So we all talk about hustling, do your best, grind, work hard, set goals, especially New Year's like this, set goals. But we don't mention the critical things that can make render our goals useless, completely useless. And that is a very sensitive topic that we will talk about in today's podcast. So welcome to Editor's Podcast with Eviakwan. And you know that the goal of this podcast is to help you get 1% better every day for the rest of your life. 1% better every day for the rest of your life. So welcome to the podcast. And I told you that in this new season, we are going to have guests on the podcast that will come and share their own story, their own self growth journey. And today we have a very special person in our midst. Her name is, or she is, the one and only Precious Udofia, aka Treasure Annie on Facebook. Hello,
Yeah.
Treasure. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Okay, I'm very excited to have you here. So Precious is a self growth. She might not admit this, but she's like a self growth advocate. She shares her story, her transformation story on Facebook constantly, and the consistently is like fire. She talks about her personal, talks about self development, her purpose journey, the process to finding your own purpose in life. So she's going to share her stories by herself, and you hear from the horse's mouth. I pray they don't take this like God have mercy. Okay. But we leave that for God, and that's it. So welcome, Precious, to the podcast.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
welcome,
Thank
welcome.
you. Thank
So,
you.
but I think you should also like really introduce yourself. Let's know who you are
Oh.
from the horse's mouth, right?
I have to do that.
Yeah, you should.
Okay. Okay, so I am. I want to look at you now.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay, I am Precious Udofia,
Okay.
and I like to call myself a purpose coach,
Mm.
but AB reminded me that I'm also a speaker because I did speak like mad.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I write, yes, I write. I like to really share about my personal struggles
Okay.
because I believe that I'm a believer. And so I'm a firm believer that everyone is going through something. And by the time you share your story, there's someone that relates to you. And when you share how you've overcome, you've shortened someone's journey of going through it longer than you did. So
Mm. Mm.
that's it.
That's deep. And that's actually the essence of this podcast.
Yeah.
And it's actually crazy. I've never mentioned this before. This podcast was actually originally called Before I Made It. And I was supposed to share my journey every day from 2018 to 2030. But something happened along the line, and I felt like, what if I never make it?
No.
True story. I was like, what if I never make it? And this was very dark times. This was 2019, very dark times in my life where I couldn't see the future. So I just felt like, what if I never make it? Like people are going to laugh about me, laugh at me. So I had to like rename the podcast. Okay, I first left the podcast. I abandoned it for like a year. And when I came back in 2020, I now called it In Details Podcast, where we share things in details. But looking back at that story, I realized that, oh, that was a personal struggle that almost prevented me from actually sharing my own story. So what really inspires you to share your story? Like, why do you share your story?
I think for the best part, I feel like if there are more people that talk about certain things, you would never feel alone, right? You would never feel like you're going through this thing alone.
Okay.
Like, let's take for something like masturbation.
Okay.
Like there are, I don't even know if to call it like 60%. The first time I spoke about masturbation on my Instagram, I think I had like close to 15 DMs that day. And it didn't even get so much likes. I think it was like maybe 1,000 views.
Okay.
That's to show you the ratio of people that are struggling with this thing. But nobody really talks about it. So everyone will be feeling like, oh, I'm alone. And they're trying, as you're struggling alone, it never leaves. But by the time you are open about it, you have someone that you're accountable to.
Okay.
It makes it easier.
Yeah, and the last time I checked, I did my research on the stats, especially in pornography. They said like 8 out of every 10 male watches pornography. Just like an old stat, 8 out of 10 watches porn, and then 6 out of every 10 female watches pornography. So the numbers are very large. And I think there was a report last year that one of the points I released that Nigeria is one of the top.
Yeah. I saw it.
But nobody in Nigeria would ever admit that they do that. So it's like, what is going on here? And it's also crazy that this thing can be the biggest obstacle to self-development. Not just like your personal life, like in your career, it destroys almost every part, everything about you, but no one is talking about it.
Yeah.
We are still trying to like drag ourselves and set goals that we know that
Yes.
we will not accomplish. So
Exactly. I like that.
yeah, you really talk a lot about identity crisis. So I'm going back to when you were, let's say the one when you were in the wall. You talked when you were in the wall, yes. So you talked about identity crisis, that you had a struggle with that. Can we know more about that? How did it?
Identity crisis, right?
Okay.
I think it's just the fact that growing up in a Christian home, there's
Mm,
there's this indoctrination that, and it's not bad, it's a very good thing. But you know that when you are living a particular life, like we used to go to church Monday to Sunday, and the only day I didn't go to church was on Thursday because that was for men. So
okay.
on Monday we're in church, Tuesday every single day, like they wake us up. So when I now went to the university, I just felt like there should be more to life.
Mm,
Like everything is
mm,
not church, you get.
mm,
And I just started to like go out with friends. We're going to parties, but even when I was there, I knew that I should not be here.
okay.
But if I just leave now, I'll not feel cool. Like I'll not
Mm,
sound cool to people, right? So I was going through that for a long time. Like I said it online. I said it on my post. I used to tweak and post on my story.
okay.
I used to dance, but I actually used to dance like since I was small. I used to
Okay.
actually dance.
Okay.
Also,
Okay.
it came natural to me.
Okay.
But I just wanted people to see me as cool. Like you get, I'm now a
Mm.
young person. I'll snap all this thing away, crop top, and I used to hide though with my auntie telephone.
Technophone.
My God, and
Okay.
guys that time they'll be commenting sexy. So like all those things were boosting my morale. And what I
Mm,
didn't know was that I was just trying to find fulfillment in something.
mm,
Since
mm,
maybe since at that point in my life nothing was really working. So I
mm,
just felt like this thing is giving me relevance. Like I'm
mm,
posting a picture, I'm having
mm,
like 500 and
mm,
something likes. As that was maybe like 2016. I was having 500 and something likes. So it was like this thing, just to keep up.
you're trending. You are.
Yes.
You.
So I think that felt good,
Mm.
but deep down, I just knew that this thing is not really for me. But at the moment, it was nice. So
Okay, okay. And I think it's something that I also really see on the internet these days, especially like
yeah,
on TikTok. So every
on
young girl
TikTok,
is just dancing. And when you actually like see like what's the idea around this is like they want to go viral, they
yeah.
want to trend, they want that relevance. So aside, what other impact or negative impact do you think this identity crisis had on you?
I think I would say that my friends, like the people I worked with,
Okay.
it made me. I shouldn't have been with them. Like I would stay with people that were smoking, were drinking, and somehow I don't know why I wasn't doing them, just because I
Mm,
felt like I was
mm,
not sweet physically.
mm,
So I wasn't doing them. But I felt those people, they had a way of, I was even staying with people that did fraud. Like I was chilling and rolling with them because
mm.
I saw it as cool or
Cool.
normal. So I felt like if I'm working with this person, if I guess what, one of them scammed me.
Wait. Your own
One of
your
my
own smart
friends
friend
that was doing fraud,
decided to use you as well a
he
prototype.
scammed my group of friends.
Still talking about peer influence. Yes.
Okay, yes, I think that was one of the major things, like the kind of friends I kept, and it
Mm,
also like really slowed the way my relationship with God.
mm.
Like that one was, I was still, even in all these things, I still used to pray. I still
Okay.
used to like try to go to church.
Church.
You get,
Okay.
I'll just go to
One leg
church,
in, one leg
one leg
out.
out. Yes, you get, but I knew that like there has to be more. Even my academics, really, like the thing is, when your life is not in order, every
Mm-hmm.
single thing
Yes.
would be
Yes.
affected.
Yes.
Every single
Yes.
thing
Yes.
would be affected.
Yes. So for like you mentioned the addiction here. Was it something you learned in the process of okay, hanging out with friends, or was it something that like how did you get into the whole trap of the addiction?
Oh, okay. For addiction, though, it was not like it started way early. I think I was like maybe 8 or 9, and that was from an abuse from one of my help as a then. So when she left, it was more like a coping mechanism for
Okay.
me. Yeah,
Okay.
it was more like a coping mechanism. So it started like in secondary school. I started secondary school really early, maybe around 8 or 9.
Smart as based on smart kid that you are, right? Yep. Speaker
My parents
auto.
pushed those
Yeah.
things.
Okay.
It wasn't me.
Okay.
So yeah, so when she left, I just like it was a coping mechanism to just touch myself. But I think when I now entered secondary school, I went to a boarding school, so
Okay.
obviously the crowd, it just
Mm,
left my mind for a while. And it usually used to come when I was alone, and so I
mm,
was struggling. And then I now got to that point where I started to like really develop my relationship with God.
Okay.
And this was a serious struggle. Like I wouldn't like I used to feel guilty, I used to feel bad, I used to feel dirty. Like it slowed my relationship with God so much that that's one of the reasons I actually want to push out that story, that the fact that you feel dirty or guilty about something and it's stopping you from God. I saw it somewhere. The person said it's just like you being dirty and refusing to bath.
Mm.
If you are struggling with something, the best way to stop it is not to run away from God.
Mhm.
Yes, I think
Mhm.
that's one of the motivation that pushed
Mhm.
me, because that's how I actually overcame it. When I
Mhm.
found out that this thing should not actually stop me from
Mhm.
going to God, it should actually draw me to God,
Mm.
right? Because He's the only person that can help
Happy.
me.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
because at
Yes.
that point I wasn't talking to people. I was not,
Mm.
the whole stigma. And I'd gotten to that point that I started to teach people like in my school fellowship. I was like teaching like these little people. So imagine
Mm.
me coming out to come and tell someone that,
Yeah,
oh,
God is
look
good.
at me,
But then,
I'm struggling. You get the way people look at you. So I was struggling alone. Like I used to cry at night. I used to feel so bad that I was struggling with this thing.
none of your friends like knew about these things. You're just like
Mm,
the cool kid outside, but like you're just like deep down.
yes, no, none of my friends knew it. I shared this story when I was done with, that was 2022,
Okay.
23. And all of them were shocked, like, oh, wow, wow.
Okay, so we're talking about the fact that you had your struggles, but your friends were not aware, and you something that you really struggled on your own, and it affected your walk with God. And then you still had responsibilities where you were actually leading people, but
Yes,
that it made you feel even worse. And trust me, you are not alone. You're not alone on this. There are a lot of people that have this experience, but they can't depend on people. I think I watched a video on Pastor Femi Lazarus' page, and he talked about someone, a girl that came, on the podcast and shared how she went to confide in someone,
mm,
about her struggles, and then the pastor turned around and it was a different story entirely, and
yeah,
even made her worse. And I think people have that fear too. If I confide in someone, what would it look like? Would they come turn around and like, betray me and use this thing against me? Which happens, you
yeah.
know. So what was the turning point for you? Like in all this, you keep going. At what point were you fed up like, okay, like this has to change, and what really, you know, caused that?
Okay. I would say there was like a drastic, when I say drastic,
Okay, drastic
drastic
out.
turning point for me. It
Okay.
was not like a New Year resolution thing. It was nothing like that. It just happened that instead of feeling very, instead of always, I think I said it before, instead of always feeling guilty,
Okay.
I decided that for every time I would masturbate, I would kneel down and pray. For every time I would kneel down with the same hands, with the same mouth, I would pray. And I just think that when my brain now found out that okay, or when the enemy now found out that okay, this thing cannot stop this girl, I
Mm.
just forgot about it. And then I actively replaced it with things I actually like to do. Like I was no longer doing the whole one day in, one day out. I was
Okay.
actively serving, I was teaching people, I was, going like at some point, people thought that I was doing the church thing too much, and they were thinking it, and I was also scared because I felt like your papa saying you school can't read though.
Mm,
All this was what
mm,
they do,
mm,
but I think that really helped me when I just knew that this thing will not stop me. This thing will not. I won't just lie on my bed and be crying. There's no point. There's no
mm,
need to feel this bad for something that if I also told myself, what if it doesn't end? Are you just going to always sit and cry and feel bad and not pray? And so I think that was when I just had that mentality, little by little.
mm,
And this is a Christian podcast, so I'm going to say it. The book
mm.
of Romans 12 says, therefore, there's no condemnation to
Okay,
them
then,
that are
in
in
Christ
Christ Jesus.
Jesus.
So when I knew that, when I've always known that, but I think that scripture just opened up to me, and I realized that, do you know what? My father doesn't even condemn me. So why am I doing, you get, why am I doing all of this,
Self-condemnation,
right?
yes.
So many times when I know that people take that message to an extreme when they say that there's nothing you can do to like gain favor in the sight of God. Like God loves you first because you, because you
Mhm,
are His child, right?
mhm,
But then many people might mistake that. So should I just stay and be sinning and be sinning and be
mm.
sinning?
Okay.
If you think like that, then I don't know. Jesus Christ died to take away sin, and you still want to be in it.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So I think that was my turning point. Just believing in the gospel of Jesus and understanding it better. Yeah.
And I think that trigger where you were like, if I'm done, you made up your mind. When I'm done with this, I must pray.
Yeah.
And the people that are like watching this and like, okay, I don't have, thank God my own is good though. I don't struggle with pornography or
Yeah.
masturbation, but then they know that they have like a toxic relationship with their phones, and even
Yes.
people that are like chronic gossipers, if there's a, if there's a
That's an
thing like
addiction.
that, if there's a thing like that, like chronic gossipers, they just know 247 that are
Like
like this
gossiping
thing,
about people.
or even football as a whole. Anything that I think addiction here is like anything you do to an extreme that you don't
Yes.
have any control over and it's controlling you.
You,
So
yes.
TikTok as a whole, not TikTok, social media, your
Yeah.
phone use, those things can come up as addiction. And the whole thing here is it takes away your time and your energy, preventing you from building yourself. And
Yes.
in the process of building yourself is what when you are able to build, any other thing, your family, everything that comes with it.
Exactly. Your
So
friendships.
yes, and that's just the whole concept here. So even if you're not struggling, I think would you say that the advice is applicable to everyone? So
Yes.
so in the method way, if you whatever addiction you're addicted to, can you say once you feel guilty about it, once you feel like that guilt that comes that's
Yeah,
supposed to make you
yeah,
cry or feel bad
yeah.
about it, you kneel down and pray.
Yes, I think that would work. But then I think that would work for everything.
Okay.
But then the problem is, like, I think some addictions might be more draining than some.
Okay.
Yeah, some addictions might be more, like someone that is constantly on social media. Like,
Mm,
you would always be, as long as your phone is charged, you would always be with it.
mm.
So if you now, and most times because of how, I don't know how to say it, how frequent that kind of addiction is, you
What's
might not
it?
see it as an addiction. Yes. So that type you're like, no, 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 no,
Nice.
yeah. So
Okay.
you won't even have guilt. That's it. You
Mm,
won't like feel bad that, oh, I'm doing this thing. But if you actually realize the guilt, I don't think that you should dwell on the guilt or dwell in your guilt. Instead, do something or occupy the guilt with something. And so I did my
mm.
little prayer.
And I think I've been there, especially with the social media thing. So first of all, I think a year before in 2021, my goal was to quit WhatsApp. I was supposed to like quit WhatsApp of all the social media
Mm,
because WhatsApp was like, a comfort zone to me. Before then I used to like push out content on Facebook and every
mm,
other platform I was helping my brand. But when I found WhatsApp status, I felt so relieved where I could
yeah,
just post my thing and it disappears. It was very comforting for me. It didn't
yeah.
help my business or my life as a whole. So I said I was going to quit WhatsApp. And guess what happened? That same year, I got a job that WhatsApp was like our major.
Okay.
We now had to use my WhatsApp for communication. So I
Mm,
could not delete my WhatsApp out. And it got worse. And it was like, a tech job where you have to keep up with the trend,
yeah,
social media. So my involvement with social media got even greater. And then it also came up like, okay, I work long hours then. So in that long hours, I'm always like, when I'm done with work, just scroll through social media just to comfort yourself.
yeah.
And you realize that you're already scrolling from like 9 o'clock and it's like 2 a.m.
Oh
You're
my
still
God.
going. You're supposed to be sleeping, but the stress
Yeah,
so yeah, like you're still scrolling and just going. You're just going, and like it's eating into your sleep time. You're looking
yeah.
crazy, and instead of sleeping, you are actually, and it's just going. But you don't also feel guilty that much because it
Yes.
just feels
It's
subtle.
fun.
It's subtle.
Yes.
It's just fun. It's nothing big. You're
Big.
not killing someone here, and then you now realize some time after, like, wait, I had these dreams, and that's why I say journaling is like one thing that, because journaling saved my life.
Yeah.
I just went endless until I now picked up my journal one, like, Jesus Christ, I
So I
had these
wrote this
goals.
thing.
What
Yeah.
happened to me? And I'm looking at myself right now and the time that I've lost. So that's when that guilt came up. So whenever I'm going through social media, I start feeling guilty. So I mean, it's safe to say that in that case, you can apply your method. When you feel that guilt in your heart, you just say a prayer, God,
Yeah.
have mercy upon me. And that will also help in the prayer of mercy. Oh my God, have mercy upon me. I don't know what I'm doing with my life,
Yeah.
but have mercy upon me. Have mercy upon me. And that was very helpful. So, like, what advice would you just share with someone that is struggling with any form of addiction? What would you just tell the person?
Oh, I think I've said that a lot.
Okay.
But for the most part, as I've said, I don't think you should feel guilty. I
Okay.
want you to remember that first you are human. And so that means that your flesh will always want to be your flesh. So you are doing something that a human should do. But now, because we are believers or because we are also spiritual bodies, we know that
Okay.
we do not allow our flesh to control us. So
Mm.
whatever it is, whether you drink too much, you smoke too much, you whatever it is that you're doing, you're watching porn, I just want you to know that you can always go back to your father.
Mm.
And another thing that would work too is having someone to talk to, someone that you trust. Having someone that you can be accountable to, like someone that you can always go back and say, oh, I failed again this week, or oh, for like 1 week, for 2 weeks, and the person is also checking up for you, like, oh, how far? By the time you have this thing that, oh, someone is going to ask me, how long have I done this thing? And you just tell your brain that, oh, let me extend it, maybe let me just wait for 1 week, or let me just wait for 2 weeks, because I know that someone is going to ask me, right? So I've just like recently I've been doing that for like very few persons. So I have like people that I just check up on, and that have opened up to me. So I just check up on them, like, oh, how far? And they will tell me. I notice that if I keep space, I tell them that, I tell them, okay, no, I'm going to ask you so day. So I want you to make sure, be very sincere with me,
Yeah,
that on
whatever
that,
happens.
yes,
Yes.
make sure you keep that span, and I'll keep
Okay.
increasing it. Okay, in
Okay.
2 weeks I'm going to a hair. So
Okay.
I think that also works. Like for the
Okay.
people that I've spoken to, it
Okay.
worked for them. So
Okay.
yes, and please, someone you trust.
Yes, so someone is probably see yourself on Insta blog. And talking about someone you trust. So just like Joseph told the king in told Pharaoh,
Yeah.
this is what will happen. These are the revelation of the dream.
Mm.
So famine and and king was like, there's no better person to
Yes.
help handle this than you that have
You
seen the
seen the
vision.
vision.
So I know you've talked about your coaching. People reach out to you, and then you have a program that you run on Facebook, a training session. So I feel for anyone watching this podcast that wants to actually reach out to you, that wants the accountability, maybe they don't have anyone they can confide in, and how can tell us about your program, purpose the purpose advanced bootcamp. So give us an highlight about what that program entails and how it can help anyone with any form of struggle, with accountability, and how you can help them out.
Okay. So the Purpose Advanced Bootcamp is basically a group where I gather people and we just teach about self-discovery. That is how to know yourself.
Okay.
So there are actually proven steps. There are things that you do that you know that this thing is actually going to point me to something, right? We talk about pointers to your purpose, why you should actually discover purpose, how that there is actually nobody on this earth that is without a purpose. And the fact that you're on earth means that there is something that God wants you to do, whether people believe it or not. That's the truth. Because I like to liken life to like a movie. If you watch a movie, you see that every role, every person is important, no matter how insignificant that person is. For example, if someone that is pushing wheelbarrow, you might think, why did they put that person? But maybe they're probably trying to drive the message that, oh, maybe that area is ghetto or something. So everyone is
Every character.
important, yes. And by the time you know that, you would always have this bigger picture about yourself. I think that has also really helped me, that I don't look at myself like a small
Small
person, no
person.
matter how I am. I would always know that there is always a bigger picture to me. So that is what the class provides. And also you get the avenue to talk to me. We have like a clarity call where if you have questions, you can talk to me personally and you would get answers. So
Okay.
that's
So we'll just
just
leave a link to, I think, your group. There'll
yes,
be a link in the
yes.
description to guide you on how you can get started and just sign up to the program. It's free, 100% free.
Yeah.
So to get started, you connect with her and then you just get help. We want you to get help. Remember, the goal of this podcast is to ensure that you get 1% growth every day. You get 1% better every day. And that's just all we do. You're saying if you're still watching to this extent, you know what to do. I want you to be a part of the community. Just connect with us, subscribe, click on the subscribe button, and just turn on notifications. We'll share more self-growth messages like this just to help you get 1% better every day. So thank you for watching. I think we've come to the end. How do we close this? So this is closing remark. So we've come to the end, and so thank you very much for coming all the way down here to the studio and just here to share your message to inspire everyone that is watching. I really appreciate that, and it's not taken for
Aw.
granted. So, any last words? Anything you're saying
I
to them?
don't have last words. Thank you too for inviting me. I
Okay.
really love this is like my first podcast.
Okay.
So I'm very
Yeah.
happy to be
And
here.
this is the
Thank
first
you.
guest we have, so it's a lot of firsts here. A lot of firsts. And we'll have more guests by God's grace, and we'll just keep sharing more self good messages like this.
Yeah.
So, thank you and stay colorful. See you in the next episode. Bye.